I'm going to speak today about the I'm not good enough monster that lived in my head for many, many years of my life, and that sort of became a barrier to my own development. And it's something that I find within a lot of people that I deal with today, this unconscious little voice up here between our ears that says, I'm not good enough. Now what's interesting is, I know about privilege, and we come from different homes in this country, but a little girl that's crying for a mother at the age of, say, 1 year old, and the mum doesn't come quick enough, that little child in adulthood will either become overly needy or overly independent because of that one little moment that happened all those years back. That's how sensitive we are as human beings. Then what happens is, with the best intention, our parents, if we're fortunate enough to have parents, or our gogos, or whoever brings us up, with the best intention on average, every single one of us will hear no and don't 48,000 times before the age of 7. And yes, you can, only 5 times, or 5,000 times. So we are conditioned 10 to 1 to not do well in life unconsciously. And then what happens is, we all have our own stories. And some of these stories are maybe worse than others, but we all have very unique stories that we overlay onto that context. So if I take my own story, I was born into the home of a crazy alcoholic, Afrikaans in the old South Africa, the racist South Africa, into this house. So my role model was not what everyone looks up to. So already there's that little voice of, I'm not good enough, because look at my dad. And then at the age of about 3 or 4 years old, I remember he lined us up in a line in his bedroom, and he put a gun against my mother's head. And you can imagine in that moment, you go like, well, I'm not good enough. He doesn't want me. So that little voice gets bigger in my head. And then years later, I fell in love with this beautiful, beautiful woman, girl. She was 16. And she was English, and because I'm Afrikaans, I couldn't speak her language. I couldn't speak a word of English. But somehow I was attracted to her. So the only thing that I could think of to actually get this girl was draw a face on a chicken egg, which I stole from my mother's fridge. So I drew this little face and I gave it to her as a gift. And she fell for it. And suddenly my girlfriend was the most beautiful girl at school. And I was the skinny little Afrikaans guy, average at school. And that's actually quite interesting when I think of school, the way it grades us. If you're a D or an E or C, then you're not good enough. So the system perpetuates not being good enough. But then I found this girlfriend, and suddenly I was the guy with a beautiful girlfriend, and I started feeling good enough again. And then at the end of matric, back in the day, we had to go to the border to fight for something we didn't even know what we were fighting for 2 years. So she left me. So then again in my head, the I'm not good enough became big. I'm not good enough, she left me. All these little judgments that form us. And she left me for a guy who could play guitar. So I thought, well, I'm going to use the 2 years in the army to learn how to play guitar so I can get my girlfriend back. And hence I discovered music. So now this is why the best thing or the worst thing in life is often the best thing. These things in life happen. So without her breaking my heart, I would never have gotten into music. And for 16 years I played music, and it built my self-esteem so that I'm not good enough became smaller again. But it was still there, but much smaller. Because now I'm an Afrikaans rock star, although I sang in English. By that stage I could speak English. So during this period of my life I discovered art. And for the first time in my life I found something I was really, really, really good at. And once I found that, the I'm not good enough became smaller and smaller. Because now I started to excel at something in life. People started saying, he's excellent, he's doing so well. And then I decided to start my own business with a partner, and the business excelled. It did very well in the first 3 years. It survived the first 3 years, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And then in 2006, we lost half our business. And my life was falling apart because I wanted to make money. And I had made no money by that stage. And the business was failing. And my relationship with the girl who I got back, because I learned to play guitar, was falling apart again. And again, at the lowest point of my life, this I'm not good enough monster just occupied my entire mind. From the outside, people will think, what a confident person. But inside, I felt I'm not good enough. And I had enough. I've had enough of this. I need to figure out what's going on here. And in 2007, in January, I went on a huge introspection. And on the 12th of January, at about 11 o'clock at night, I found my life's purpose. And it was fascinating. It was so insightful. It came to me in one word. And I took that word, and I took the meaning of that word, and I brought it into my life. And it became the strategy of my life. And it inspired a new vision for my life. And it inspired new values for my life. And suddenly my life just started to take off on its own. And I couldn't understand, how does this work? So I put a model to it. And this is the crux of my TEDx talk. This little model that I want to share with you. There's two sides to each and every one of us. On the one side, we're human. And we each are given our human name by, if we're fortunate enough, our parents. And that name is what we live with for our entire life. So whether it's Tando or Kolisa you mentioned, or Kutala, or Pepe, or Wendy sitting in the back, we get this human name. Our life becomes about what we do, what we wear, the car we drive. When we have children, which school do our children go to? It all becomes about the serving of ourselves, which is very important because we have to sustain ourselves in life. But it's only 50% of who we are, is that one side, the human side. Now, if I'm a high performer, which I am, I'm a very high-performing individual. Let's rather quantify that happened after school. But if I'm an 80% plus performer, and I times 80% by 50%, it equals 40%. 80% times 50% is 40%. So if I'm only living a human life, no matter how hard I try, I'll never be good enough, because my output will never be more than 50%. And then I discovered there's a second side to my life, and that's the being. Because we're human beings. The being is your greater reason for being in this world. It's your birthright. It's the reason you're born into this country at the moment that you were born to do a certain thing. And I discovered my being. And suddenly that became my greater cause in life, in service of others. So when I get called for a TED talk, I don't blink, I find time, and I come down to Durban, and I'm going to run out straight afterwards, although I wanted to see the other speaker so much and take a bit of a break today. But I discovered that being to my life. And overnight, everything doubled. And then it tripled. Exponentially, everything in my life just changed. And Jane Goodall famously said, just like human are human beings, monkeys are monkey beings. I remember reading it and I thought, then a dog is a dog being. And a sheep must be a sheep being. So I stopped eating sheep. I thought I can't eat other beings. So there's a lot of happy sheep now in the Karoo. But I thought, can a business be a business being? If the same works for humans, in my experience now, can a business be a business being? So if I've got this business called Joe, which myself and my partner at birth named Joe? Can it have a greater name, a being name? And the being name of the business became growth, to be the fertile soil that grows our people, our clients, and our country. Now you'd think an ad agency, the word should be creativity. It doesn't work like that. If I had a beauty store, I could think my word is beauty, but maybe sometimes people don't feel good enough and they want to look better and they come into my beauty store and maybe what I'm selling is self-confidence. Maybe that's my greater purpose. So based on these two insights in my life, in my personal life and my business life, I've learned that without purpose, you can have a very, very good life. Without purpose, you can have a very, very good business. But with purpose, you can have a great life. And with purpose, you can have a great business. So, the last thing I want to leave you with is this little monster called I'm not good enough. Turns out to be my greatest gift in my life. Because without it, I would never have found my own purpose. So I suppose the message I want to leave you with is listen to that voice inside you, that voice that a lot of people nowadays term imposter syndrome, that sense of not being good enough. It's there to guide you, to find within you your true greatness. So thank you very much.